construction edition of Acumatica. And I've just started sharing my screen. So if I could get a verification that you're seeing the Acumatica screen with a dashboard up on your side.
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Thanks, Rob. So as you can see, I've already logged into the software, and Acumatica is a role-based management offering. I'm going to be focused on the construction functionality here this morning, and then my colleague Paul is going to walk through the payroll side of Acumatica once we finish up on the construction side. So when a person logs into Acumatica, depending on their role, is going to determine what she or he has access to in the system. So if you look in the upper right-hand corner, I'm logged in as Maxwell Baker. So Maxwell could be a project manager, a superintendent, a controller, a finance person, somebody on the manufacturing side or design side. And that's going to determine what they have access to in the software. Everybody, when they log in, gets a home page. In this particular example, I'm looking at a project overview dashboard because I'm focused on the construction side. So all of this data, all of these what we call widgets, is focused on projects. And I'll come back to some of the other dashboards that are available to you in a second. But this particular dashboard provides a nice 10,000-foot view with what's happening in your construction projects out in the field. And because this is a true cloud product, like Rob mentioned, it's real-time data, real-time information. So as something is getting approved out in the field, a check is getting cut in the office, a bill is getting paid, everyone's looking at the same set of data. Gone are the days of the silos of information where you're waiting for the PM or the superintendent or the foreman to come in at the end of the day of the week or the month and update information to the office and vice versa. So that collaboration between office and field to office is really what the cloud brings to the table in this particular instance. Over here on the left-hand side, underneath the Acumatica logo, you're seeing what we call workspaces. Each of these workspaces, again, are determined on a person's role in the organization. So they may or may not, for example, your field people probably won't have access to the banking workspace or the core accounting financial workspace. They're going to have access to the construction workspace, the project management workspace, perhaps payables, receivables, purchases, etc. I've got a whole bunch of things turned on here for demo purposes, but I just wanted to point out that you get to customize or configure, is a better term, the software, and you're only going to see the things that make sense to you and your role within the organization. Each one of these workspaces contains a set of menu items. For example, if I click on the construction workspace, now I'm looking at transaction types, reports, inquiries, profiles specific to the construction functionality, to the job costing side, to the change management process within Acumatica. So all of that functionality lives here in this workspace, and you have the ability to configure this workspace at all as well. So right now I'm showing particular features and functions that I want to run in the software. If I have the rights to, I can come in here and turn things on or off depending on what I'm using in the software. And this is all done as part of the implementation process by the ASWI folks along with Acumatica, figuring out what your business processes are, what your workflows are, which pieces and parts of the software you're going to use on a daily basis, and then configuring each one of these workspaces dependent upon what those workflows and business practices are. For example, if I click on the finance workspace, this is the core accounting, the core financial aspect of Acumatica. So the journal transactions, financial calendars, GL, balance sheets, P&L statements, etc., all live in this finance workspace within Acumatica. I'm going to focus on the construction edition functionality today. So you just see I clicked on that Acumatica logo and it brought me right back to my homepage. So wherever you are in the software, you always have the ability to get right back to whatever that homepage is, whether it's a dashboard or report or one of those workspaces that I mentioned earlier. So these dashboards are configurable as well. Here's an example of a cost by project widget, and I get to pick and choose how many projects I want to display here. The blue underline is a hyperlink, which will take me right to a project. Drilling down from the dashboard, I could also get there from this construction workspace, but the ability to drill down to information is prevalent throughout Acumatica. You'll also see I've got information that I'm displaying here. What was the revised estimate? What are our costs to date? Do we have any open committed costs? And if I want to drill down on those purchase orders or subcontracts, those open commitments, I can do that right from this dashboard. I don't have to drill down into the project. Of course, we could get there going through the workspaces, but seeing it in this graphical format makes it really easy to understand where we are on a cost by project basis. And if I want to know where that $30,000 in open committed costs come from, I can just click on that 30K, and now it's going to take me to those transactions, to those commitments that make up that particular number. So now I'm seeing the purchase orders. I'm seeing links to each one of those purchase orders here in the system. Have the ability to understand at a more granular level of detail what's making up those committed costs, open committed costs on that project. So super easy to get to the information that you need to see in the system. Here's an example of some of the technology that Rob was talking about, the ability to display job site cameras or drone footage technology on a dashboard. So here we're seeing a live look into a project. So we can be anywhere in the world. I understand you guys are in Ohio. I'm down here in Sarasota, Florida. We're all looking at what's happening at a particular project site in real time. By displaying this embedded web page showing a job site camera live at this project site. So just an example of what you can do there with the technology. As I go down a little bit further, different items that can be displayed in these dashboards, remaining estimate percentage by project. So I'm able to see those projects. I can hover over it for more information. Estimated profit percentage by project. I can drill down on a particular project and it'll take me right to that inquiry or report that's showing that information. Tracking things like RFIs, project issues, change management processes, change requests that are happening can all be displayed on a dashboard. So I can see here quickly at a glance that I've got 4 RFIs. All of them are open. Some of them are unanswered. Some of them are waiting for additional information. I can see who owns that ball in court item or that RFI item. And if I need to drill down to that project or drill down to that RFI, I can do that right from the dashboard. As I scroll down a little further, just different examples of types of widgets. Gross profit by project. Do we have change orders on any of the projects that we're managing? Tracking particular employees' time cards. If you want to see your superintendents or your foremen or your PMs, you have the ability to manage that process directly from a dashboard. And there are a slew of dashboards available. I'm going to click on the dashboards workspace here. Here's an example of some of the different types of dashboards. So if you're on the finance side of A&A, the ability to log in as a controller and have this be your homepage when you log in. So you're able to see your cash requirements, cash expectations. What are the top overdue balances we're going to focus on? And if we want to drill down on those overdue 90 plus, we've got 56 of, I can just click on that hyperlink right from the dashboard. And now it's going to take me to an inquiry where I can see those over 90-day balances, who the customer is, what the amounts are, the invoiced amounts. I'm able to drill down on that information very quickly and very easily directly from within that dashboard. One other dashboard I want to share with you is the project manager's dashboard. So as a project manager who's out there managing your projects, and it could be a superintendent or a foreman, depending on your, how you manage your projects. But as a PM, I've got a specific dashboard related to just the projects that I'm managing, the items that are waiting for my approval, the RFIs and those project issues. As I'm walking the job site every morning or every afternoon, I can capture any issues on the job site and make sure that the back office is aware of those issues. Perhaps they need to be converted to an RFI or converted to a change request as part of that change management process. I'm able to track all of the information that I need to track as a PM directly from this specific dashboard in the system. Okay, one of the other things I want to point out is this universal search feature. So I can search for absolutely anything in the system. I can come in here and search for the term invoice, for example. So it's searching the menu items. If I'm looking for AIA billings or pro forma invoices, I can get directly to those. If I'm looking for particular invoice transactions, right, I could search by that number. I could search by customer or vendor. It'll take me excuse me, right to that particular invoice with a hyperlink so I can get right to whatever information it is that I'm looking for in the system. So super easy to find data, to find information. It's going to pull up any help topics related to what I searched for. And as part of the document management system in Acumatica, any third-party files, any PDFs or Excel docs or image files that I've attached with that search feature, is going to automatically find those and provide a hyperlink where I can open up that particular JPEG or PDF or TIFF file or plan or blueprint that I've attached to the project or attached to a project management transaction type. I can very quickly and easily find that information simply by using this universal search feature. I'm going to pause there before I jump into a project and just see if any questions on the user interface and the navigation that I've shared so far.
When you look at some of the project stuff that you were providing, I'm assuming that would have an interface potentially with like B2W. Have you guys already done some work with them in an estimating scenario?
Yeah, so great question. And we have had conversations with Bid to Win, and Acumatica makes it really easy to get data into the system. And Rob talked a little bit about this with the open APIs that we utilize, bringing in data directly through from a cloud-to-cloud product. And if I pop into a project here, for example, so you're doing your estimating in Bid to Win, and if we pull up a project here, let's just go into this developer project. So inside of the projects window in Acumatica is where I'm managing everything related to this project. So if I click on the cost budget as an example, this is where that estimate, that winning bid, could come in and populate, as well as the revenue budget and the tasks and cost codes that you're setting up. But you'll see this icon on almost every grid in Acumatica. So I could upload those Bid to Win or that Bid to Win estimate directly into this cost budget and populate my budget with that data. So there's import export scenarios that can get created. We do not have a direct integration with Bid to Win, but like I said, we have been in conversations with them. It's something that we're talking with them about. So there could be a direct workflow without having to do the upload. But today you could take that bid from B2W and upload that directly into a project in Acumatica.
Okay.
So now that I'm here inside of this project, projects in Acumatica are your jobs, right? This is where I'm managing everything related to this particular project on this screen. And we do that through these tabs that you see running across the middle here. At the top is header information around the project, the ID, who the customer is, if we utilized a template to start this project. So you're not recreating the wheel every time you start a project. You can have templates automatically populate information for you, or like you asked, and like I mentioned, you can upload that information directly from Bid to Win, directly into your cost and or revenue budgets here in the system. So I don't have to leave the screen to manage everything related to this project. If I click on the summary tab, this is basically the project setup window, the properties of the project, how we're going to manage our budget levels, what level of detail. I'm showing task and cost code at both my cost and revenue budget. But if at the revenue level, I only wanted to track it at the task level, I could make that change at the project, and then I'm going to see less detail on the revenue side as if compared to the cost budget side. So you get to really pick and choose how you want to set up your projects, start dates, end dates, who's the project manager, different tick boxes where we can turn off things, restrict employees or restrict equipment access on particular projects. And as I scroll down here into the billing and allocation settings, setting up custom billing rules. In this particular example, we're looking at a progress bill project, but it could be T&M, it could be cost plus or fixed price. You can really customize those billing rules to meet the needs of your, to meet your billing needs, or even allocation rules from a revenue recognition perspective. You can set those up at the project level. And then from that point forward, this project will follow those billing and allocation settings. Same thing on a template. If you set up different templates, you can set up your billing and allocation rules on those templates as well. Over here on the right-hand side, you mentioned that some of your billings are AIA. You're doing the G702 and G703 format. So we've got that built into the product, and you can choose your different levels of AIA in the report or billing or invoice that you're going to show up. So you get to set that up here on that properties window as well. One of the questions that I have for you guys is, how are you getting field data into Computeries today? I know Rob asked that question about the bid to win side, if you're using any of the operations side of bid to win, but is it a manual process today where you're entering that job costing information in Computeries, or how are you getting that data into the system?
Combination of both. The materials being transferred in when we do our billing cycle.
Yep.
And then obviously the payroll pulls in the labor costs, but it's a combination of both.
Okay. So from a time card perspective, you're using Computeries time cards to get those labor transaction types added to a project?
Yeah, each job is set up because we're union and tax jurisdictions and everything, and then when they log in for the day, they log into that job specifically.
Okay.
And then the work type they're doing associated with the job.
Okay. All right. So Paul's going to talk through some of that on the payroll side, but yeah, we have the ability for, certified payroll projects, prevailing wage, unions, et cetera. All that can be set up in the project itself and on the payroll and time card side as well. So here inside of the project, again, this is where I'm managing everything related to this project. So if I go back to that cost budget, this is where the cost aspects of this project live. And I've got these set up with project tasks and cost codes, and there's a parent-child relationship here between a task and cost code, where the cost codes are going to automatically roll up to these project tasks that you see here. And the tasks on a project can be configured there, however you're gonna set up your work breakdown structure for your projects. In this particular example, we're looking at this project broken down into 8 different lot tasks and then development cost tasks. But this could be phase, it could be activity, it could be whatever work breakdown structure, whatever WBS structure you want to set up on your project. You have the ability to configure that information at the project level and at the task level for each one of these. So for example, if I go back to the cost budget, as data is getting captured in the field, as data is getting entered, bills are getting paid, checks are getting cut, time cards are getting approved, et cetera, it's updating the cost and revenue budget in real time here in the system. If I click this group by task box, what it's going to do is just give us a cleaner view of the cost budget. So it's rolled up all those cost codes to the 9 tasks that I have on the project and showing us our original budgeted amount, revised, any committed invoiced amounts, our actual amounts, and then our variances on the project. So lots of ways to view the information in Acumatica at whatever level of detail you want to see on the cost side and or at the revenue aspect of the project as well. So if I click over to the revenue budget, this is managing the revenue aspect of the project. We're seeing the project tasks and cost codes. And then as the project is going through its life cycle, in this particular case, we're entering % complete updates for the tasks that we have on the project. Invoices are getting generated, pending invoice amounts are getting generated, and all of those invoices, as they get created, live right here in the project. So I don't have to go anywhere else in the software. Those invoices sit here on this invoices tab. So as the PM or manager, construction manager, I can come in here and see the pro forma invoices, those draft invoices, the AR invoices, the AIA invoices at any time. And I can pop into this pro forma invoice as an example, and it's going to pull up that invoice screen for us. And just like the project, I've got header information around the invoice at the top and detailed information below. And if I need to generate that AIA report, I can do that right from the invoice screen, and it's going to pop open that form. So the app insert for payment. When we go to the next page, it'll be our continuation sheet. And every single report, every single transaction type in Acumatica, you can generate a PDF, you could dump it out to Excel, you can email it directly from within the system, And like Rob mentioned, the ISV partners, those independent software vendors like DocuSign or Adobe Sign, if you're using any of those, you can get these documents signed electronically and then received right back into the system as a signed document. So that whole process gets managed inside of this project's window. Same thing on the commitment side. Any purchase orders or any subcontracts that get created can be created out in the field on the fly from the Acumatica app. They can be entered here in the project browser version, right? I can create a PO, I can create a subcontract, I can manage that process here inside of this project. And if I want to pop open this particular purchase order, it's going to open up just like that invoice, and we're going to see the same setup, same layout, header information around the PO at the top, and detailed information down here below. In this case, we purchased some concrete, or we're purchasing some concrete for a particular project, for a particular task and cost code on this particular purchase order. Every transaction in Acumatica can go through an approval process. So right now you're seeing that this is open and it's already been approved. But if I come in here and just put this back on hold for a second, you'll see that it's now on hold. So if I needed to make changes to this PO, I could. And when this purchase order gets created or that invoice gets created, it can immediately alert or notify people within the organization that need to approve this process. So if I remove this hold now, you'll notice it just went to a status of pending approval. So whomever is set up in that approval process, and it could be one person, it could go through multiple approvers, it could go through a work group or the executive team for approval, full approval and assignment maps in the system that you can set up. So they've been notified that an approval is waiting for them, and they can get notified through an alert that pops up on their screen, or a notification on their smartphone or tablet, or an email, or all three of those things can happen. And they get a link to come in here and they can look at the purchase order. They can look at a report, they can approve it, they can reject it. And if I click approve, that's going to change now to a status of open and approved. And now whomever is going through this process could enter a PO receipt, enter an AP bill, complete or cancel the order, whatever they need to do with this purchase order, they can do right inside of this PO window or right inside of the project itself. Lots of flexibility and workflows that can be set up in the system for managing commitments, managing invoices, managing the change order process on a project. All happens right within this project's window. If I click on the change orders tab, this is the change order process where I'm managing those change orders. In this particular example, I've got an open change order here. Again, that could have started out in the field as a project issue, an RFI, a change request. It could be an owner change order, or an internal or external change order, and you get to define those types of change orders that you manage in the process. And the change orders themselves are basically a mini project within this master project. So it has its own cost budget, its own revenue budget. In this case, we're impacting a commitment on this change order, so we can see what the rev change, the cost change, the commitments impact is. Where are we from a margin perspective on this change order? And the change order can go through that same type of approval process. And release in Acumatica is posting. So once I release this change order, it immediately updates the rev budget, the commitments change, the cost budget, and I'm able to see that happening in real time on any of those tabs in the project. And I can have an alert sent out that says, hey, this change order was approved, it was released, we've now updated the project in real time. So lots of flexibility, the ability to configure information at the project level. And right inside of the project itself, we have this balances tab. So this is basically a mini P&L for this project. I can see where we are from an income and expense perspective, the different cost types or account groups that we're tracking, and then I get to pick and choose what columns I'm seeing here. The original amounts, the potential change order amounts, revised budget, committed budget, actuals, etc. And if I want to drill down on any of this information, for example, we've got $43,000 in labor on this project. I can highlight that labor item and come up here and say, show me the transactions. I want to view those transactions. So it's going to automatically pop open those transactions related to labor on the expense side and show us each one of those. So again, the ability to drill down to whatever level of detail that you want to see, in this case, labor, but we could go even further by task or by cost code or by inventory, non-stock or stock items, and drill down on those project transactions. So in this case, it's showing me the time cards that have been entered for the project manager and any other employees on this project. So I can see the cost code, the task, the quantity, the billable amount, the billable quantity. And as I scroll to the right, I've got more information. I can get to the GL batch number if I need to through that hyperlink. And then I've got a link to the actual time cards themselves. So the unit rates, the amounts, the financial period it's associated with. And if I want to drill down and understand a little bit further, like I want to see that time card, I can click on that hyperlink, and now it's taken me into Jordan's time card. I can see the hours that were entered, the unions that were created. In this case, I didn't have a union there, but the union locals there, the workers' comp codes, the tasks that Jordan was working on, the projects that Jordan was working on. And this could be multiple projects in one day. If they're going from project to project, you have the ability to pick and choose those projects and tasks at the time card entry level in the system. So very easy to get to the detailed information that you need to see, whether it's drilling down on the cost and revenue budgets or invoices or commitments, or right from this mini P&L on this balances tab, showing me what's happening at the project level in real time as data is getting entered into the system. So I know I'm throwing a ton of information at you guys in a short period of time, but a couple of other things that I wanted to share with you here on the construction side. If I go back out to the construction workspace, there are a slew of out-of-the-box reports in the system. And here's an example of some of those canned reports. The Acumatica report writer and designer is built right into the system, so you don't have to go out to a third-party product to modify reports or create your own configured or custom reports. You can do that right inside of the system. Here's an example. I'm going to pull up a project WIP report, work in progress report. So on the WIP report, I can run that as of a particular date. I can run it by a particular project. And I can create different versions of reports. Rob wants to see it one way, Nick wants to see it another, Paul a third way. I can create versions of the reports and have them show up for each role or each user in the system. I talked about the ability to edit those reports. If I just run this report right now, it's going to show us a top level WIP report for the active projects that we have in the system. And this is a bit of an eye test, so I'll zoom in a little bit here. So I got a hyperlink to drill down to each project. And then as I scroll across to the right, I'm seeing contract amounts, estimated costs, actuals, cost to date, percent complete, billings to date, what revenue's been recognized, where are we with our over/under billings, and then last but not least, they're forecasted, what's remaining on that contract, what's our backlogs look like. And I can, send this out to Excel. I can email this. I can generate a PDF. This is a nice top level project WIP report. But if you want to see it at a granular level, at that task and cost code level, I don't have to even leave the report. I can just click on each project, and now it's going to give me that WIP detailed report. So I'm going to see those 8 or 9 tasks on that developer project we were looking at. Same column headings, contract, estimated, committed, actuals, and forecasted, but now I'm seeing it broken down by each one of the tasks, and I can go from page to page and see the WIP for each one of those tasks. I get to the bottom page here, it'll give us subtotals for each one of those tasks, and if I go to the very end, it'll give us those totals for each one of those tasks on the project. So again, a way to get to the granular level of detail that you want to see in a report or even in an inquiry within Acumatica. We also have inquiries that can be created and configured, showing you budget details or project transaction details or tasks by certain employees. So lots of ways to view information within the system. I just clicked on that project summary. So this is giving us each project that we have, and then columns that we've chosen to see here. What was the original contract, approved changes, revised, what's our revenue look like to date, the gross profit, what was the original estimate. I can see and view that information very quickly and easily without having to drill down to a whole bunch of data. I'm able to do that simply by clicking on that inquiry or specific report, or like we started the demo with, right from a dashboard. The ability to view information in a graphical format and then drill down to whatever level of detail that you may want to see at the project level. So a couple other things I want to share, but I'm going to pause and just see if any questions have arisen on your side.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. You said when you set the job up, you set it up as a certain type of billing, percent completion or time and material, whatever it is.
Yes.
Can that change as the project goes along, or would we just use a change order for that?
It can change, actually. It can change at the task level. For example, you can go into a project, and if I go to my tasks tab, you could have billing rules set up differently for the type of task that it is. So if some of your tasks were progress bill, some of your tasks were T&M, you could set billing rules up at that task level. Or like you said, you could manage that process with a change order, depending on how you're setting up your project. So yeah, great question.
But and then we're usually a subcontractor. Can that the title part up there, could we add owner as well as customer, or is that set as is?
No, you could absolutely add another what we call a user-defined field here that had the customer and the owner there.
Okay, and then and maybe you're going to get into this stuff later in inventory or something, but as far as tracking inventory and field access, would our people in the field have access to this? Could they produce a ticket while they're out there on the job that tells us what materials they took from here or what equipment's on the job?
So yeah, there is an Acumatica app that has capabilities for tracking information, entering project issues, purchase orders, invoices, et cetera. You can do all that. You can also just run the browser. I don't know what devices you guys are using in the field. If you're using iPads or iPhones or Android devices, we support both of those. But you can, an iPad has a bigger screen, obviously, than an iPhone or a Microsoft Surface tablet. You can have the browser open on an app or out in the field and enter and track that information. That's really part of the implementation discovery process that Rob and Nick and their team will go through with you and understand what you're trying to track out in the field and where that data needs to come into the project side.
Okay.
So we would want to learn what those workflows and processes are, and what you're currently doing in B2W, what you're currently doing manually or in spreadsheets, and then understand where we pull that information into Acumatica.
Okay, perfect. And then the last thing was, as far as time cards and that, does that just come straight from how did that get pulled in?
Yeah, so those are getting entered out in the field. I just clicked on the time and expense side here, and I know Paul's going to get into some of this, but as the employee time cards are getting entered, they can live here in the system. So I just clicked on, let's go to Maxwell's time card. So as time's getting entered, and this can be entered in the browser or it can be entered off of the Acumatica app. If the employees are entering their own time cards or your superintendents or foremen are entering time, you've got options there, whether it's crew time entry or individual time entry. As those are getting entered, they're going through an approval process. They can get submitted, they can get approved. In this case, this time card for Maxwell's already been approved. So now it's just waiting to be released. Like I said earlier, release in Acumatica is posting. So once I release this, then it's available for payroll. Then it's updating the time on the project itself in the system.
Okay.
Yep.
That's all I had. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, just the last thing I wanted to share with you guys, I want to give Paul enough time to show you the payroll side, is the project management workspace. So I just clicked on project management, and these are where specific transaction types can be created out in the field by the PMs or superintendents or foremen or whatever role you've got managing this process. So we talked about RFIs, those requests for information. We can automatically generate RFIs in the system, and you can have those RFIs sent out and received right back in, right? So here's an example of we're missing the generator pad and the original design specs. Where do you want it placed? So we sent this RFI out, and whether it went to an architect or an engineer or an owner or the general contractor, they respond and it automatically comes in and enters that information into Acumatica. And now I have different things that I can do here. I can reopen this RFI, I can print it, I could convert it to a change request. I can go through that process, right? If I reopen this RFI as an example, now you'll see that perhaps I need a change request for that dumpster pad, right? We didn't have it in our original contract, and now I need a change request to go through a approval process there. So you can really manage project management transaction types out in the field. Those project issues, as the PMs are walking that job site, they can capture any issues on the job site. For example, here's a project issue here where we encountered rock under the main entrance. We need a blasting crew, whether that's an internal crew or an external crew. We need a subcontractor to come out to do it. I can say whether it's impacting our schedule. Is there a cost impact associated with it? It's really a way to capture any issues out on the job site before they impact the schedule or impact the cost or impact the profitability of the project. I'm able to create those as a PM and make sure I'm collaborating with everyone that needs to know that information in real time. Drawing logs are for managing blueprints and plans. So the ability to track the latest and greatest blueprint to make sure that your crews have the latest revision. If you needed external people to have access to these drawing logs, you could do that. We can email those drawing logs out, and then of course we can view those directly from within the system as well. So if I pull up that PDF for that drawing log, I'm able to see right inside of the system what that looks like. And then if you needed to put on a sticky note or a markup or highlight something and make sure they're focused on it, you can do that directly from within the system as well, right inside of the project. So it's all about managing the process and making sure everybody's up to date with what's happening on the project. And ultimately, it ends up generating these electronic daily field reports where we can see exactly what's gone on any given day on a project. So on this particular project, for that developer project we were looking at, I'm tracking any time cards that were entered or time activities that were entered. Were there any change requests or change orders created? Were there any other subs out on the job site with us today? Were there any project issues? There's that project issue we looked at earlier where rock was under the main entrance. It can automatically feed weather updates through a weather service and automatically update weather multiple times a day. Ultimately, it ends up generating this electronic daily field report form where it's captured everything that's gone on today out on the project and given us a nice electronic form. Even the job site progress photos that we're taking, those can be updated automatically as part of our photo logs into the daily field report. What equipment time cards were created, any pertinent notes about the project, were there any visitors on that project? So it creates this nice clean daily field report that will update everyone in one place with everything that went on that particular day for that project. So all part of the project management functionality. There's the photo logs where I'm taking those job site progress photos. If you're working with submittals, the ability to track submittal processes and have them go through some kind of workflow, you have the ability to do that. And then like Rob said, we're continuously adding new features and functions to Acumatica. We do 2 major releases a year, an R1, which is in the first quarter of every year, and R2 in the fourth quarter. The next thing that is coming here on the project management side is meeting minutes. So if you're having those daily stand-ups in the morning, 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m. every morning, we can create and track everything that went on in that meeting and create documents checklists or forms, things that you need to create. That's what's coming next in the project management functionality in the 2022 R1 release, along with a whole bunch of other features and functions that we're adding to the system.